morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be about palette dupes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be about palette dupes. So these are palettes that I feel do the same thing, and I just want to show them to you up close, do some comparative swatches to show you that these color stories are in fact quite similar. Now, I know a lot of creators sort of do this duping the vibes kind of thing with singles in their collection, but my eyeshadow singles collection is there to fill in the gaps in my eyeshadow palette collection. So for me, I don't always have the kind of singles that would allow me to recreate certain palettes. I just don't, but I do sometimes have palettes lying about that make me go like, those are like alternatives, dupes, things that just look really similarly. And I thought I could come on here and do a video once a month about these kind of like palette dupes. I've done videos like this in the past, and then I grouped a couple of these things together and like talked about like 10 different groupings. But I thought it could be far more interesting to go a little bit more in depth, show you all of the swatches as well, and then talk about just one grouping of these palettes. And in case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come on here, chat about eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. So if you would like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely click subscribe down below. So the way I'm going to put this video together is I'm going to have it in two parts. I'm first going to be talking about the palettes individually, and then we're gonna go to the floor and we're gonna like compare them and like look at close-ups and do some comparative swatches as well, just to see how these work. So that's what we're gonna do in the second half of the video. And what are we going to be comparing here? The Nabla side by side, which I pulled from my declutter so I could do this video. Meesha Lou The Fawn, and Zoeva Together We Grow. So I think the first one of the bunch that I had was the Nabla side by side. So let's start there. I've said many times that the Nabla side by side isn't quite right for me. When this palette launched, it got a lot of hype. It was definitely sort of riding that hype and popularity of some more neutral tone palettes that came out around the same time. And it was sort of riding that wave, and there were a lot of people who were saying how good this is. And I love neutrals, I love Nabla eyeshadow, so I was like, that's, you know, that's a double whammy, I'm going to love this. And then I got it home and I started using it, and I really found that the undertones in these shadows aren't quite right for me. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, as I mentioned, and I feel that this palette has better shades if you have maybe medium skin, tan skin, olive tone skin, then I think this can work a lot better. Another group of people I think this can work for as well is people with dark skin, or if you do have a fair skin tone, but you also have that olive or more of a warm toned undertone, then I think this can still work. I just felt that the cool tones were too gray, which I don't love, and then some of these neutrals at the top, I got some superfluous shades, like these two look identical once I put it on the lid. The same for these two shimmers, so I felt this palette could have been more curated. Also here in these red tone shades, I felt that wasn't perfect. And another thing that I felt here was that some of the shimmers, especially this one, this is super pretty, but it needs a lot of building up, and it just wasn't as vibrant as I wanted it to be. It has a very strong yellow tone gold, which is something I personally don't love. So truth be told, once I really held it to like my standards, you could say, I was like, I love this cool tone brown that I love. I really like these two shimmers, despite the fact that this I feel is just a bit of a weird formula. And I like that reddish tone brown. And that's like the only things I truly love in this palette. So for me, there was just one look that I would still want to do with this, and I feel I can get that look with the other two palettes I'm going to chat about today. So that's why I just wanted to come on here. Is this a bad palette? No, I think this can work for a lot of people. This is a really good neutral tone palette. But with the kind of collection I have, how much eyeshadow I personally have tried, this is one that wasn't quite right for me. It didn't quite fit the bill of what I look for in an eyeshadow. And that's why for me, this just wasn't quite right, which is why I'm really happy to say that I felt I could declutter this now that I have these two. Now, the one I feel that is the most similar in terms of color story is this one. This is the Meesha Lou The Fawn eyeshadow palette. Meesha Lou Cosmetics is a very small UK-based indie brand. They only have 3 palettes. They're usually only in stock around the holidays, it seems. Like their stock is not that reliable. So it's not something you can buy year-round. I'm sure it's like a one-woman show who is doing this for fun, very obviously. So this is not something you can get, but you will see when I hold these side by side that this is just, in terms of undertones, even some of the repeat shades we get in the Nabla, we get in here, because we do get these 2 warm tone browns that do look a little bit similar. And I know that some people also feel that these 2 are quite similar, but for me, this is a cool undertone and this has a reddish undertone. So for me, they are different. And when I apply them to the eyes, I do feel they have a different quality to them. But I feel that this is the more edited down version of the Nabla side by side, which is perfect for me because I like a little bit more of a curated vibe. This doesn't have the same 2 peachy mattes, the same 2 peachy shimmers, the same 2 reddish toned mattes is the only thing this has that is quite superfluous. I like this shade the most. This is the shade Water Reflections, and Water Reflections is a great, how should I describe it? It's not taupe, it's not gray, and it's not gold, and yet it's all those things at the same time. It's incredibly vibrant, really, really stunning. It doesn't have that stark yellow tone gold that the Nabla has that I don't love, but we do get a peach shimmer, we get a bronzy gold here. That's the only thing we get. The only thing that could really amp up this one for me is if one of these 2 matte reddish brown shades was a shimmer. If that had been a shimmer, it would have been perfect. But this white is a shimmer that has a bit of a duochrome vibe. You get a cool tone dark brown and a shimmer and a matte. You get some things to blend things out, whether you want to go for something warm and peachy or whether you want to go for something a little bit more cool tone neutral. This is what I kind of wanted the Nabla side by side to be. It's got really good quality. I believe, I'm not sure anymore how expensive these are because I've owned this for a while, but I also remember, if memory serves me right, this wasn't like a super duper very expensive indie brand. Some indie brands can be quite expensive because they use very special formulas. This one just isn't. And it's cruelty free as well if that's something that you're looking for. So I think that if the Nabla side by side you feel is either too big or like me, you feel the undertones may not be quite right, then maybe the Meesha Lou may be a better bet. But we have a third one here, and that is the Zoeva Together We Grow. And the Zoeva Together We Grow is perhaps even better for me because nothing here is overly warm, overly cool. It's just a really good right smack in the middle neutral tone palette. But I feel we still get pretty similar-ish things. This shade here, this greenish taupey brown, is a very interesting shimmer that I wish would have been in the Nabla, for instance. It's not quite as vibrant as Water Reflection as in the Meesha Lou, but I do really feel that this is a shade that those 2 palettes could have benefited from. This has the reddish tone brown, and it has it in a matte and a shimmer that I feel the Meesha Lou is lacking. So it does do that the Nabla does as well. You get these like orangey, bronzy browns as well, so a little bit more bronze leading, which I like. This gold isn't too stark yellow as well. It has more of that brassy undertone, which I do prefer. And then we get the neutrals, which again has a gold, but it's more of an antique-y, greeny gold. So that's why, again, I feel this works a bit better for me. And then you just get your blend shade with a champagne. So one thing I really appreciate about the Zoeva is that you have 5 shimmers, 5 mattes. You could literally put this in the crease and the shimmer on top of the lid and like pop something on the lower lash line and you're done. And you can do that for each one here. You could do that. What you could also do is use the palette like this and like this. That makes for a really stunning look. You can also use this as quads. That makes for stunning looks. And you can just see that for instance, these 3 shades will go perfectly together. These 3 shades will go perfectly together. And for instance, these 4 go really perfectly together as well. So this can just be split up in a lot of different ways. So I feel in terms of versatility that the Zoeva quite possibly takes the cake for me. I feel that the Nabla and the Meesha Lou are perhaps the most similar. This is definitely not the same. It's not as similar as these other things, but it's definitely something that I feel can give that same sort of vibe, the same sort of look that I get and that I actually wanted the Nabla to give me. So that's why for me, these are staying around, and the Nabla was a declutter because both of these just do things better than what I get in this one. So let's now go to the floor. So let's get to the comparison. So the Nabla side by side is the instigator of the whole thing. So let me put that one right here so you can see what we've got going on. That's the Fawn, and then that is the Zoeva. I'm wearing a pink shirt so you can sort of see it in the reflection, but this way I think you can see them all laid out. And then I think you can see that some of the things I'm loving about the Nabla is what this, like the Meesha Lou focuses on, and then we have a couple of those things plus some extra things in the Zoeva. So I already mentioned that I feel that these reddish tones are in every single palette. So that's what I want to start when it comes to swatching. So I'm going to grab this and this and this from the Nabla. So that's the Nabla. And then I'm just going to grab those 2 from the Fawn. That's what those 2 look like. And as you can see, they do have a slightly different undertone, like in the Nabla. And then you can see that, for instance, this one and this one, so that's this. So that's this and that are pretty much identical because this and this are the best. And I feel that the Meesha Lou swatches a little bit better. The Nabla is a little patchier. And then you can also see that the undertone of the Meesha Lou, those 2 shades are much closer together, but you can see a little bit. Maybe on my fingers you can see it even better. You can just see that they do, I think I'm swatching them the other way around right now. But you can just see that this has a bit more orange to it, a little bit more warmth, and that this is a bit more, well, they're both warm, of course. This is a bit more orange, this guy. And then this is a little bit more yellow almost. And then in the Zoeva, I'm going to be swatching these 2 because I think that this may, like in the viewfinder it doesn't, but in real life, this is really close what I now see in the swatches of those more like yellow tone shade that the Nabla and the Meesha Lou have. So let me swatch the shimmer as well. So that's what the Zoeva look like. So you can just see that this is a lot lighter, I think. And then that is that darker one. So you can just see that this darker one from Zoeva is like this one from the Nabla. Do you see that? This is the Zoeva and that is the Nabla. And I do feel that something both of these palettes are missing. So this is the Meesha Lou, this is the Zoeva, is that shimmer from Nabla. If that were in one of these 2, I think it would have been perfect dupes, but you just get a couple of different options. But I do feel that the Zoeva one here swatches the best in these shades. Now that I'm looking at these, I actually feel that these 2 shades may also be quite similar now that I'm looking at them in the pan. So let me swatch those 2 neutral mattes. I don't feel the Meesha Lou has anything like those. So on my index finger is the Nabla. Let me take a little bit more because I don't feel I'm giving it a fair chance. These are just a little drier than the Zoeva ones. The Zoeva ones definitely feel much smoother when you touch them. Yeah, do you see that? They're practically the same thing, and the Zoeva just swatches so much better. Now, swatches, of course, don't mean anything because the Nabla works fine enough with a brush, but I feel that now it kind of confirms to me even why I prefer these 2, because these 2 combined just also give me everything that I want from this, I guess. Another thing I want to do is, because this does have that like peachy tone as well. This doesn't, but I do want to put this shimmer up against it because these two palettes don't have this brassy shade. So in terms of peachiness, this is the closest thing. So let me grab the Nabla first. And the thing that really I didn't like about the Nabla were the shimmers. The mattes were a lot better, I felt. So that's these three shades. And then you just see that the Zoeva has a lot more brassiness. So I do like that Nabla shade, but it's got a lot of visible sparkle. Now this is the Meesha Lou, and it's a duochrome. So I'm not sure if you can see, but it's got peach and then gold. Peach, gold, peach, gold. So it's not the same depending on how the light hits it, so that's a good one. And then that's your Zoeva. So that's definitely the darkest. But again, this yellow tone gold is the darkest shimmer we pretty much get in the Nabla. And we don't get that anywhere else. Now I'm looking also at these two shades. So this and that seem to be quite similar in the pan as well. So let me swatch the Zoeva and the Nabla. So this is the Zoeva, this is the Meesha Lou, I should say. I'm terribly sorry. I knew I was going to mess it up. So that's Zoeva. Really lovely metallic shimmer. And this is the Meesha Lou. So the Meesha Lou is a little less high shine. It's more satiny. But I think that once you put these on the eye, they're just going to do a similar thing. But the Zoeva definitely has a bit more depth. Now another thing I want to do here, because I feel that the Meesha Lou is perhaps best in terms of depth. Because in here I feel we only really get this and the black, and I don't love a black, so I want to take this cool tone brown from the Nabla, these three shades from the Meesha Lou, and then perhaps this shade from the Zoeva, because it's not the darkest shade in the Zoeva, but I feel it's giving off a similar vibe. So let me grab the Nabla right here. So again, not the best, and then these two mattes from the Meesha Lou are right here. And like I said, I feel that these do have different undertones, and you can see it here. This is a bit more reddish tone brown, and I feel this is more of like a coffee shade. So Nabla, Meesha Lou, and then that Meesha Lou shimmer I'll pop on last. Let me swatch the Zoeva one first. So this is the Zoeva, which is quite light compared to the other things, and this is the shimmer from the Meesha Lou palette. Then you can just see that these palettes do something similarly, and I feel that this shade, this like reddish tone deepening up shade from the Meesha Lou, is what makes the palette for me. The Nabla one is the most cool tone though. As you can see, these all have a little bit of warmth to it, but except for the Zoeva again. Zoeva is more of a like darker taupey shade. It's not as brown. And now I want to compare water reflections to this uniqueness shade from Zoeva. They're not the same because this is a green undertone and this is much more silvery. So the Zoeva is definitely darker. You can just see, like, that's such a unique shade. It's like the Meesha Lou in a way that it's, you know, it's not gold, it's not green, it's not silver. It's got a bit of those qualities, and then the Meesha Lou is just, wow. It's such a reflective shade. It's one of my favorite shades in my entire collection. So I feel that in terms of brightness, the Zoeva doesn't hold a candle to it. But I do think the undertone of the Zoeva shade is quite unique. And I wish we got something like that in here, because the closest shimmers to this in the Nabla are these two. And you can just tell that this Love Ritual shade is just, it is pretty though. I mean, that I might want to salvage because it's almost like a bit more mauve, the one from the Nabla shade. So I do like that one. And then just for completion's sake, let's swatch this reddish tone brown. And this I felt was really sheer, but that's a pretty unique shimmer as well because it has the more sparkly thing. So now that I think, okay, I'm definitely going to get rid of this time, but since it's cardboard packaging, and since it was quite successful for me with some other palettes this year, I may just want to destroy this and like keep, like, keep these 5 shades from my Nabla palette and put it into singles. I think that that could be something I can still do with this, and then I keep the shades I do like, because like I said, it's good quality makeup for sure. Do we need to compare these like blending tones as well? Like these are quite similar, I feel. Ooh. The Meesha Lou feels a lot drier and it's just a lot peachier, which is probably why it works a bit better for me. Oh, look at that. They're very different in undertone anyways, even though they look similarly in the pan. And then what I think can also be quite similar here are these two. So the Nabla and the Meesha Lou. Ooh, there we go. So this is the Nabla, which is just straight up orange against my skin tone. And then the Nabla is just a little bit more of a softer peach, so that works better. Or the Meesha Lou, I should say. I keep messing up. And then I think, yeah, because we've compared these two. I don't think any of these palettes have anything like this. Yeah, we could compare the gray tones in here. Let's see what these gray tones are like. Just for funsies. And then you can just see the Nabla does have a bit more blue, which I do prefer blue tone grays, but I just feel this feels quite chalky. You can also see how it's like messed up a lot of the pan. Like it's not a good shade, I feel. Yeah, the Meesha Lou one is a lot lighter, and that's probably why it works better on me, because it can be used to tone down some of these things. And like if you, for instance, want to make some of these like mattes a little bit more cool toned, you can add this, because it's got that, it's not too gray, it's more of like a taupey gray. So then it works a bit better, I feel, to make it work. Because this is so stark of a difference compared to everything else we have in the palette that I feel it doesn't go with anything, save for that shimmer. Oh well. So these are the 3 palettes that I wanted to compare for you in today's video. I hope it was helpful, that you now saw some comparative swatches and that you can just see that not every palette on the market is that unique, because this was definitely around before this or this was released. So oh well. So thank you so very much for joining me today. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make several videos every single week, and I want to do these once a month. So if you have any ideas of palettes that you feel are similar that you know I have, because I'm planning to just do content with some of my palettes I already own. I'm not planning to buy things so I can do these videos. But yeah, I already have a couple of ideas lined up. And then I hope you found this as fun as I did. And I hope to see you in my next video. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.